Again, as we wait for everybody to join, please complete the poll. Got a couple of housekeeping things. So question-wise, if you guys can throw your questions in chat, that way we can address all the questions at the end of the webinar. And then also after the webinar, we'll be sending out an email with a short survey, and it will also have the PowerPoint presentation slides of what we went over today. So before we get started on our agenda, I just want to introduce a little bit about Synergy. Synergy started in 2005, and our primary focus was MEP design and commissioning. As our clients' needs really changed, we introduced two different teams. One of them is our MEP capital planning team, which is doing assessments on facilities. And then our second team is our facility intelligence team. And that they both focus on different technologies and data and how laying that up so that you can make key decisions to improve building performance. So all in all, we have 4 different teams that we focus on. Again, it's MEP design, commissioning, our capital planning, and then facility intelligence. A little bit about myself. My name is Michael Keith. I'm the CEO of Synergy. Graduated from Western Michigan University with an ME degree in 2003. Got right into the commissioning game right away. With my first employer, I grew with them. We grew to 12 offices. I ended up leaving them to start a shared workspace coffee shop called the Office Coffee Shop in Royal Oak. Right after I started that, I actually joined Synergy in 2015, and we've been working on improving building performance since then. Brad?
Hey everyone, as Mike said, thanks again for jumping on. This is our very first webinar for Synergy, so we thank you for taking the time to jump on here with us. I am the Chief Business Development Officer for Synergy. I've been with them for right around a year. Been in the industry for 20 plus years as a mechanical engineer doing design. Did sales, building analytics, consulting, things like that. So yeah, we're looking forward to talking to you guys about building intelligence today. This is actually, meant to be first part in roughly about a 3-part building intelligence series. We want to kind of get at a very high level, just kind of get the discussion started with you guys in terms of building intelligence, what it is, what it means, where it's going. And then some of the following webinars will get a little bit more into the weeds and details in terms of, the technology that's out there, how to use it, how to apply it, the benefits of it, and things like that. One other housekeeping thing too is, as I said, going further into doing more webinars, if there's a topic we come across and we don't get into the detail you would like, please drop a note in chat and just say, hey, you'd like a little bit more information, either directly from us or as we present in some of the following webinars that relate to building intelligence, and we will make sure that we include some of that and make sure that we're giving you all the types of information that you guys need. So as you can see the agenda on the screen, we want to kind of hit, like I said, some of the high level points in terms of building intelligence. So what is an intelligent building? Very simply, and why is having one important? What are the benefits? There's many benefits. They're not free, but there's a lot of stuff, a lot of low hanging fruit that we can apply to buildings today to make them a little bit more intelligent and make them a little bit more efficient. Do you have an intelligent building? It's a great question to ask. If you have one, could it be a little bit better? If you don't, what is it going to take to get you there? As part of having an intelligent building, with a lot of different things out there today, data is a big one. Analytics, data, how do I get it out? What is it telling me? How can I use it better? And so on and so forth. And then we'll get into what's next. So we'll talk about a little bit more, like I said, in terms of what's coming down the road and some of the following webinars that we plan to get out to you. So if we get to the first one, what is an intelligent building? A lot of different definitions out there. I think, a lot of times intelligent and smart are kind of thrown in together. We're going to talk that maybe that's not the case. Maybe there's a little bit of differences in them. But in terms of defining an intelligent building, in its purest sense, an intelligent building is one that performs to your expectations. There's no two customers, no two buildings, no two processes within those buildings that are alike. So if your building is performing to your expectations and it meets the vision of what you think an intelligent facility should be, then you have an intelligent building. If it's not and you think you can do better, then there's processes that we can take and things that you can do to not only educate yourself, educate your coworkers, your team, to get to the point to where you're improving your building, you're improving the efficiency, and therefore improving the processes that happen within your building, whether it be a hospital, an office building, or things like that. So when we're talking about smart versus intelligent, what I would normally like to say for intelligent buildings is that there's a lot of smart systems out there. So when we talk about smart systems, we're talking about your building automation systems, analytics, fault detection, meters within those systems, your preventative maintenance systems, your asset tracking, things like that. Those are all smart systems, and there's software and technologies that are devoted to those different things. I believe when you integrate and combine all those systems and marry them together and get them working in a dedicated, focused approach, that's when your building becomes intelligent. Not everybody's going to have all those different types of systems, but the better that they can make those systems work together, the more intelligent your building is going to be and the more efficient it is, can be from day one moving forward. But the one thing I didn't note there, that's probably the most important part of having a smart building, are the people that run it itself. I mean, software, technology, all that's great. But the true value of all those smart systems is only really realized when you have people that can act on it and use that information, use that data, use those systems in an intelligent way to make buildings more efficient, to make them safer, to make them more productive. So we as engineers, we as building owners, we as facility operators, we're not going away. We are the ones that drive that value and make these buildings smart by using all those tools in our toolbox to make buildings more intelligent. So why is having an intelligent building important? As an engineer, when we look at designing buildings, we design to design days, right? So if you're unfamiliar with that, your building has to perform at its worst case on both ends. It's hottest day and it's coldest day. Design days. That's normally 90 ASHRAE 3% or 1%. And while that's good, that just means 97 to 99% of the time your building is operating someplace in between those two design days, right? So that's where the intelligence is important, because you want your building to operate efficiently, safely during those times when it's not at peak. And that's where a lot of the tools that we get into and have at our disposal help us do that and perform more efficiently.
Another part of that on the design side is, you can use that data that you're getting out, you can use that to make a design change, right? If your system was maybe undersized or oversized, you can use, data is very powerful in terms of looking at renovations and capital planning, which kind of blends us right into the benefits of an intelligent building, and part of that data is knowledge, right? And knowledge allows you to have that power to be able to make good decisions, right? So that allows you, to make those operating decisions, where to spend your capital. That's a big challenge within facilities in itself, and being able to replace the proper equipment is very, very important. So that knowledge or that data that's coming out can be very powerful. And then also looking at it in terms of improving operational efficiency, right? So you can use that information to drive that operational efficiency in terms of if you're using fault detection, or if you've got different rules. When you have an intelligent building and those smart systems are working together, it allows you the ability to do further analysis and improve your operational efficiency, and then which typically will reduce your energy. And we'll get more into some of the details of that. Also we have the proactive maintenance, so, you have your regular PM schedules and you're going through the equipment, and you should be hitting this air handler this week, or you're moving through your PM process. But if you've got an intelligent building that's pushing data at you, you can look at some key ways to find assets that are degrading over time, right? And then you could actually get some eyes on that prior to that issue actually becoming a problem, right? So it allows you to be proactive in going out and assessing that equipment. And sometimes it just needs eyes on it to see maybe something's not calibrated or something's just a little bit awry. Maybe somebody left a door open, you know what I mean? Like on an air handler, you know, you have it's string attached to the handle, and it's blowing air into the mechanical room because they want to add some cooling to the mechanical room. You know, I've seen that multiple times, and that would say, wow, you know, this score is starting to fail a little bit, or this equipment is, and you can go get some eyes on that and you can find out some of those problems. I touched on asset management a little bit, you know, and it's very key whenever you're starting to look at that capital planning or even energy projects where you're trying to justify that project through a return on investment. But having an intelligent building can really assist you with providing you good data prior and then after you do that project. If it's capital or if it's just an energy project, it allows you the ability to really understand how much energy you might have saved or other things that you might have done. And a lot of times we talk about what's the cost of doing nothing, right? There's a cost when you don't do things. You know, if you let some things go awry, you don't want to necessarily do that, because there's a cost when you don't proactively do maintenance or address certain, key systems.
No, I think Mike, as you said, that ROI is huge moving forward, because with, you know, everything we've seen even before the pandemic, everybody's being asked to do more with less, right? Capital dollars are tough to come by, and people want to see the benefit of what they're going to be spending large amounts on. So being proactive is huge, because if you can start extending the life with the intelligence of your building, if you can start extending the life of those assets another 3-4 years, that's huge in terms of capital planning, as well as using the data and what your building is telling you, right? Because, you know, buildings are living, breathing things just like us. I mean, they bring air in, they expel out, and they need to be looked after. So, I mean, the longer that we can care for those buildings and plan for things accordingly, that makes those ROIs a lot better, where we're not just constantly replacing stuff on an emergency basis where it costs, you know, 5 to 10-fold more to do it on an emergency basis, as it does as if you were actually had it in a good capital plan and planning for it and showing your leadership that, this type of equipment is going to pay for itself in 2-3 years. And then it's going to be, the efficiency of it for the life of that asset is going to be so much better moving forward, because we have the data and the intelligence to back those kinds of claims up.
Yeah, I mean, I consider the building intelligence part of the key infrastructure for a building, right? You've got your HVAC equipment, you've got your BAS, which is dealing with your 0 to 24 hours type of issues and things of that nature, and you've got training as a big part of infrastructure, capital planning, preventive maintenance, and I think there's a bucket there for facility intelligence, for building intelligence, right? And how that's coming out in specifications and different things is starting to grow up, right? We're still in the early stages. I mean, we started getting involved with, getting involved with the, data analytics or building intelligence, right? So I'm kind of throwing a couple terms out there, but with the building intelligence, so much has happened in the last 10 years. When we looked at some initial products 10 years ago, and then we were looking at it again in 5 years, just recently 5 years ago. And then to today, it's night and day difference in terms of computing power and the ways that these smart systems can integrate.
Yeah, so the next point, so just looking, do you have an intelligent building? What are some of the things that you can look at right now to kind of gauge where you're at in terms of your building intelligence? I would say probably one of the biggest things and the first thing to look at is the vision of your facility and where you are now and where you want to go. Is that aligned, from the top down, from corporate leadership down to the site level, down to your maintenance guys? Is everybody on the same page in terms of where you guys want to go, and everybody's kind of rowing that boat in the same direction? It's extremely important, because if that information isn't shared and it's not, all bought into by everybody on the team, it's hard to move forward. So that's an absolutely critical part of step one of having an intelligent building. We talk a lot too. We've been talking a lot about technology and analytics and things like that. But there's a lot of things that you probably have parts and pieces already that don't play into that. There's standards and specs and guidelines for your building. Are you guys controlling the assets that are coming into your building? Are you guys driving that bus, or are contractors or engineers, based on what their practices are, driving that? A lot of times, not saying that that's always a bad thing, but sometimes those people don't know or don't share your vision of where they want your building to go. So if you can just be in charge and drive those standards and specs for yourself, is very important.
That's a key part, right? And them sharing your vision, and as long as you have that vision, right, it's getting them on your team and, finding a partner that can help share that vision, and not just listening to what the vendor might be saying, right? You can create that vision outside of that vendor and they can jump on board to your vision. But knowing that you have the ability to drive the bus is, I think, a big takeaway of making sure that you can go towards an intelligent building. If you have a BAS system, then that puts you you're going down the right path. But does that mean your building's intelligent if you have a BAS system? It really doesn't, right? It means that you're doing well, right? It means you've got a lot of things going in the right direction, but you don't necessarily can get the data out, right? So that makes it tough.
No, very true. And just having updated sets of building prints or riser diagrams is so powerful, because it tells a story, right? So anybody coming into your facility to do work already has that information. It doesn't need to be recreated. Mike, you talked earlier about training and bringing people in. If those documents are already there, it makes bringing people that come in to work for your building and bringing them up to speed that much better and that much more efficient. So there's a lot of efficiencies that can be gained just by doing a lot of simple things like that. And again, it's data. It's more data. It's not necessarily the fancy computer data that you're getting, but it's data that you have on hand for your facility that allows you to use it in a very effective manner and make your building more intelligent.
So it's not all IT based. It's not all, if it's an IT thing, if it doesn't have an IP address, that doesn't count.
No, anything that can make that building function and make your job easier is something that needs to be a part of your toolbox. As we talk with data, all the data in the world is great, but are you able to get it? Are you able to get it in a useful manner that it provides value to you? Having a building automation system is great. There's a lot of great control. When we talk about a building operating, 97, 99%, at a time that's some sort of portion of its design capability, having a building automation system is critical, because that's what's going to drive and help control that building efficiently. However, there's a lot of data on the back end of that can be used to increase efficiencies and allow you to do a lot of really cool stuff with analytics and fault detection. But can you get that data? It's questions you need to ask. And if you can't get that data, you need to ask why. I'm paying for it. It's my building. It's my data. Why can't I get it? I need that, and it needs to be useful, right? Just having data is one thing, but it needs to be useful and it needs to be valuable. So
would you say that being useful, that's kind of the key thing about that intelligent building, right? Is that you get useful data? That is a big part of, do you have an intelligent building, right?
Yeah, because as I said before, the most critical thing you have for your intelligent building are the people that are running it, right? So they, at the end of the day, even if it's the best analytics in the world or the best BAS system in the world, somebody has to act on that data that's coming with it, right? Somebody has to make a decision to say, hey, this isn't performing well. I need to do something about it. So yeah, having something that's useful and easily, can be put into play or be put into action by the people running that building is absolutely critical. Because again, a lot of the stuff, nobody's going to go turn a screwdriver for you. Somebody needs to go do that. So it's absolutely one of the key things.
I can see that in terms of onboarding, right? You bring on a new engineer, you're at a facility, and you've got the file room that's got all kinds of different documentation and different things, and trying to give them a tour and trying to give them some type of, toolbox, right? We've already been talking about a toolbox. You're trying to give them some level of a toolbox, and there is, when you don't have that and you can't give them that baseline information so that they can read and study and understand, that makes it very challenging for them to be able to go out and make smart decisions out on the job site.
Yeah, and as we talk about, you know, having that data and where you start to say, yes, I want to go down the path of my building becoming more efficient, more intelligent, you have to have a starting point, right? So you have to say, this is day one, I'm moving forward. So the other part of that is tracking your progress in terms of the changes you're making. So if you're making upgrades to your documents, if you're making upgrades to your assets, your infrastructure, your building automation system, you have analytics, you have fault detection, you have all these great smart sensors and smart pieces of equipment out there. How is it doing for you? How are you tracking it? How are you measuring it? How are you gauging your success? Because we always say
something you do. That's something you do in a master plan, right? I mean, so that's something kind of that you'd start out setting up with the master plan, right?
Yeah, and it's a common phrase out in the industry. You see it everywhere. You can't manage what you don't measure, right? So if you're not tracking your progress and seeing where you're having your successes or seeing where you need a little bit more work, you can't divert the action and the manpower to those areas in order to be better. So that's, you know, part of what's also critical about getting that data, again, is tracking how well you're doing with it and making sure that you're making the gains and getting the value out of it.
Yeah, so for some other steps, you know, we talked about the master planning and that vision that Brad was talking about of how you want your system, your facility to run in terms of the BAS or your data. And, you know, and there's a lot of different articles that you can follow through like the Building Commissioning Association. They've got a lot of good stuff in terms of, you know, ongoing commissioning has some things that you can learn about, you know, but as you set that master planning, you know, it's one thing to be able to write it out on paper, but the next part's really, you know, going out in the field and looking at that and doing a gap analysis of understanding, like, what in the field do I actually have for my infrastructure? How old are my panels? You know, how new, you know, which ones are new, which ones are on the way out, which ones, you know, you got to look at that gap analysis so that it allows you the ability to put a plan in place that's actually achievable, right? You can't just say, well, I'm going to go upgrade all my panels, you know, next week. You know, I mean, you've got to first start out and get your ducks in a row for that. So, I mean, a lot of times those projects can be, you know, 12 to 16 months long. So you've got to be able to plan appropriately and look at how you would phase that in and understanding some of those, you know. So first you got to understand the gap, and then you got to make sure you can get a game plan for how you want to execute that work. You know, and to the point of like, what can't you see, right? So we could be going through and looking at the gap analysis and find out that we don't have any chill water meters. We don't have anything for the heating hot water system. So, and maybe the master goal is to, you know, let's make sure we can at least at a system level do, you know, building power, chill water and hot water. And let's just make sure we can start understanding what our benchmark needs to be for those facilities. So, and then you might have to go get some of those things, right? So, and there are some good grants out there. There's all kinds of different ways that you can get through DTE, consumers. They have different type of opportunities where you can actually get some of that gap analysis even covered. You know, you can get some people to come in and do some of that work for essentially no really minimal fee, or sometimes the buy-in that I've seen is that they just say that once you get the report, you know, you've got to execute some of those those low cost, no cost, which is a win-win situation. So there's a lot of in that meters and controls. There's a lot of initiatives out there that people can grab onto to get some help.
Yeah, and I think as we talked earlier about, you know, the ROI and things like that, that's a critical component of that, of whether, you know, everybody's like, I want something that's more energy efficient. I mean, that's great. I can come in, I can put something in that's more efficient, save you energy. But there's other things like that too. I know that, you know, we have some people on here that deal with incentives, right? So getting those incentives back from the utility companies. I mean, there's a tremendous offering out there from our local utilities for us to become smarter as engineers and have more intelligent buildings, right? They want us to conserve energy. They want us to be more efficient, and they're willing to incentivize us to do that. So there's plenty of avenues out there to help improve the ROIs on, you know, and everybody thinks it has to be a brand new construction project. That's not the case. I mean, a lot of retro commissioning projects and renovations that you can do within your facility to upgrade your current assets, you know, the payback on them can be substantial.
Yeah, I really like how you're talking about before too, with the intelligent building being about the people, right? About the people that are running it, and that you have actionable things you're learning from that data or from the building itself. But it's not just the IT stuff, right? It's that those zone drawings, those one lines, we call those 2-click documents, right? So for me, if you have your zone drawings, one lines, riser diagrams, it's going to average for maybe 750,000 square foot facility. You might be up in that 65 to 75 drawings, but those are all documents that if you can train your onboard your new engineers or train your older engineers on those documents, and they can get to those within 2 clicks, you're saving a lot of time.
Yeah, and it's again, it's documentation that every time you do a project doesn't have to be reinvented by the engineer or the architect coming in. All they're doing is upgrading it and updating it and making it current. So again, that saves money and is more efficient on the back end in terms of your design too. So yeah, and we have in there data gaps, and as I've over the last 5-6 years, I've gotten into more of the building analytics and fault detection. That's always the key thing is people like, great, we can start to see more. I always look at it at the opposite end. Now that I have all this insight and I can see what's going on in your system, what can I see? What sensors aren't here or can't I take advantage of that if I had them would allow me to operate this building, these systems more efficiently? I mean, it could be as simple as, a temp sensor in a pipe that allows me to do a chilled water reset or things like that. So a lot of times when you start getting the data, it's great to get the data, but then you'll start looking at it and saying, great, wow, I'm missing all this. And what's the cost benefit if I can get these points or get this data in? What can I do with that and how much more efficient can I be? So,
that's kind of how you're talking, right? Like the smart side of it, right? Rather than in that intelligent side being like how all those smart parts interconnect, right? Because we were just talking with another client yesterday about med gas, right? Wanting to get med gas in, and for them, getting all of it under one roof is a way that their goal is for their intelligent building is to get it all under one viewing pane, right? So that makes it, so their expectation is to set that, has been set right through their vision, and making that a priority, and then going after, getting that game plan to go after it.
No, absolutely. I think that's a big, that's overlooked a lot of the times is a gap analysis. A lot of people don't want to see where they're doing bad, and not to say that it is doing bad, but if there's holes and there's things that you could easily go grab, there's tremendous value in picking up some of those things that you didn't have before. So yeah, as we start to, get towards the end of this, we want to talk about what does it take to get data out and working for me. And we're going to touch a little bit briefly on this, but we're going to hit some points that are going to lead us into parts 2 and 3 of this webinar series as we get a little bit deeper into the details in terms of how we get some of the specific things in terms of whether it be analytics, fault detection, integration, systems integration, things like that, in order to make us as building owners, facility managers, engineers a little bit more powerful and getting a little bit more of the ammunition behind us to help do some of this cool stuff. So we'll get into and we'll start talking a little bit more about controls and integration, right? So
is there an easy button? Is there an easy button to get your data out? Because I sure wish there was.
No, I think it's getting there. It's getting a lot better. I mean, just even in the last 4 or 5 years from what I've seen from integration and what's happening is tremendous. And I think a lot of that is coming with a lot of, people driving towards open protocol type building automation systems. And, not just saying that open versus proprietary or somewhere in between is bad or good, but, with the way that technology is now, if you can open that up to people that really have never been in our space or this industry in terms of mechanical engineering or design, there's a lot of software developers and people that take it and run with it, right? Because now it's like, hey, I got this open platform. I can write apps for this. I can write programs for this that allow us to do some really cool stuff out there. And the more and more we do that, and the more we allow people to collaborate together and drive some of that, the better off we're going to be. And it's going to make stuff not only better for our intelligent buildings and our efficiency and building safety and occupancy safety. I mean, with our pandemic, everybody's thinking more about that now in terms of, hey, is this building safe? Can I go in there? Am I being taken care of? But on the side too, it's going to make everything, more, cost effective is a good way to say it, right? Because the more and more people are doing it, the better and easier it gets that cost come down, and it makes it more accessible for people to grab it and use it. And a lot of times, that's what we'll get into in some of the other ones is talking about some of the people that can help building owners, whether that be a master systems integrator, an MSI, consulting engineers, things like that know a little bit about how to get you down the path of where you need to go and can help you lay out systems and give you, cost analysis and ROIs to say, hey, it's going to cost X, but I'm going to get Y back. And it's not only just Y back in first cost, it's the long-term value of that asset to say, I'm going to extend the life of this another 5-10 years. And oh, by the way, I'm going to be much more energy efficient. My operational efficiency is going to go way up because my guys are not now going to be chasing fires and hot and cold calls all the time. They're actually going to be able to do, a word that's not used often enough is proactive in our industry. And that's where all this stuff is going, is we need to be more proactive. We can't wait till something fails or catches on fire for us to go fix it. We need to be thinking about this stuff, and we need to be using, analytics and fault detection and things like that, and controls to the best of our ability to start predicting when things are not going well and solve those problems before they actually become problems.
So your IT team's probably got to get involved, right? So we got to get a couple of IT guys internally, right? And there's ways to get that information squared away, right?
Yeah, and like I said, as with technology, IT is important, but I'm sure there's a lot of people on right now or in the industry that will tell you that usually that's a big roadblock just in terms of how they move, and again, security, it's a big thing, right? And rightly so, they should be cautious. If you're going to a hospital system and their IT group has a lot more things to worry about than your building automation system, right? They have patient information, they have things like that that they don't want people to get access to. But what's great now, and what we'll get into a lot deeper in some of our other webinars, is as we get into operational technology networks, OT networks, where we can start developing our building automation systems and these critical, quote unquote, smart systems that we can build out and set up, where we're basically taking a lot of that work away from the IT, taking it out of our hands, right? So we can actually control it, we set it up, and we get to a point where we basically need one IP drop from them, right? We don't need an IP drop for every single controller, every single sensor. If you go to an IT guy and tell him you need 100 drops as part of his building, I mean, he's gonna flip out. But if you tell him, hey, I need one point of access and I can control my entire building automation system, it makes things, again, a lot easier and a lot more cost effective moving forward and timely. We're not waiting for approvals and people to tell you no 5 times before you get the answer on that 6th try. So
yeah, I mean, and to me, it kind of goes back, we'll get into the takeaways here in a second, but I mean, it kind of goes back to that team approach, right? I mean, you got to have your IT, you got to, when you're talking about that master plan, when you're really trying to scratch out, like, what do you want that vision to be for your building? You got to make sure that you got, who pays your energy bills, right? So, and how are they getting that information? You got to get other people involved from your IT side and then on the maintenance side, because you really want to get that core team all on that same path so that then you can get things going relatively quick.
No, absolutely. And it's, again, as we get to our takeaways, exactly what you're saying, having that team approach, having a vision, and discussing that. It's we hear that a lot of facility managers, they submit a capital budget each year and it just gets rejected. Times when I ask to see it, there's not the meat behind it. So if you said it before, the high cost of doing nothing, right? It's not so much of saying, hey, I have this, it's going to make our building that much better and it's going to cost this. It's more of saying, what's the cost of us not doing this? If I'm in a hospital and I have a system, my OR system is served by air handlers that are 40 years old and my air changes are through the roof and it's 100% outside air system. And, I'm a belt away on this air handler of not being able to do surgeries that cost 10 ORs. Rather than you going and saying, I need $1 million for my project, the conversation is, hey, what happens if I lose this air handler and we can't do surgeries for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks? It's well more than $1 million. So then that's when you start using the data to your advantage and using these analytics to say, hey, I see something is failing. It's not a problem yet, but it's going to be. We need to discuss this and we need to all get on the same page and have that vision. So, that's what I would like everybody to kind of take out of here, is just making sure. I mean, that's one of the key steps, is having that vision and have everybody rowing the boat in the same direction, because it's hard enough to constantly be putting out fires within your facility, but if you have to constantly jump over hurdles internally just to get stuff accomplished, it just makes it that much tougher. We have on here a BAS master plan, and that's not necessarily of go out and replace your BAS or go up and do this. It's more of as we get into parts 2 and 3 of this webinar series, just thinking of, hey, what do I currently have, and what is it telling me, and what could I get out of it, and what possibly more could it tell me in the future, whether that be upgrades, maybe it's just a retro commissioning, going in and making sure that the points that you're getting and the points that are controlling all the critical aspects of your facility, are they accurate? Are they working? Are all your sequences okay? So having that kind of master plan and constantly checking that is critically important to the efficiency of your building and making it smarter moving forward. And I kind of touched on the last one as well too, is having access to that data. We talked about it before. All the data in the world is fantastic, but if you don't have the people around and do something with it, there's no value in that data. People always say that we have all this great stuff. The value only happens when you take action and you use that data to make your building safer, your building more efficient, your building more energy conscious, and just having it work for you as opposed to you constantly fighting it.
Yeah, I mean, and too much data can be a problem too, right? You can run into so much data that you're swamped, or you can't even get your head out. Even if you don't have a building automation system, you can start with data with just your energy bills. I mean, it's just a matter of starting somewhere and taking it at small chunks. You don't want to necessarily go bite off, the entire elephant, right? You want to take it, bite by bite. You want to really just try to slowly go into it so that you don't consume. You got to really have a good game plan for that, because the volume of data can get intense.
Yeah, I mean, there's, again, once you start getting into this and start applying some of the new technologies, there's a lot. And what you don't want to do is get people into alarm fatigue. And not that what we're going to, analytics and stuff it's the farthest thing away from alarms, but you don't want to overwhelm so many people that they just start tuning it out. No, I'm not going to listen to it. It's too much. So you're absolutely right. It's got to be meaningful, and it's got to be approached in the way, it's got to be prioritized, and you got to be able to take action in a meaningful way. So as you take action in a meaningful way, you solve problems, you see the benefit of it, and that just snowballs down to say, great, I'm going to do the next one because I'm going to see another benefit and another benefit, another benefit. And it creates that great snowball approach of starting something and being able to track it and see it succeed. Because, I guarantee you, the more and more that you can show successes to the people that are approving the capital budgets and things like that, the more money you're going to get to make more and more upgrades moving forward.
Agreed, 100%. So we're going to wrap up today. So we try to keep these nice and short, right between that 30 and 45 minutes, just kind of, talking about building intelligence and what that means to us, and how we see facility intelligence as a huge part of, facility infrastructure. So we have recently updated our website just to give a shout out to that. There's a spot where you can, grab a time to talk with us about your facility. We're always willing and looking forward to taking time out and talking to people about their facilities. So if you have seen anything that we talked about today that is you'd like to learn more about, we're an open book. Our goal is to help improve building intelligence across all facilities. So it's not that it's got to be anything with us, but we are always looking to try to talk and help people improve their facilities.
No, absolutely. We welcome all the feedback. I know that Cody and Tanis put up a new poll. So if you're still around and can do that, that'd be great. Questions and comments, you're going to receive a webinar, the PDF of this webinar in an email. There'll also be a survey attached to that. The survey will ask a little bit about this webinar, but also ask you for your feedback on us. Because like I said, this is our very first webinar. We wanted to have a very high level discussion as the first one and kind of drill down into the details a little bit further moving forward. So if there's anything we didn't talk about, anything you'd like to learn more about, what we did well, what we did bad, please throw that in the comments, and we'll take that and improve moving forward. So as we have on there, stay tuned for part 2 in the series. We're probably looking to do that probably sometime in mid-June. So be on the lookout for that. And if
We'll,
there's,
we'll get to talk a little BACnet information, a little bit about BACnet and some of that, the Siemens P2s and some of that. That'll be some of the good information that's coming out in the next one, kind of talking about those languages and how to really see that data coming through.
yeah, we're
And,
gonna
and so
get
you
a little
can
bit
make
more,
actionable results, right? Something like that.
little bit more into the controls and kind of hopefully debunk some of the stuff that's out there in terms of what's open versus what's not open and things that kind of, and you know, how we can make it easier for building owners, facility managers to get their data out and use it. It's their data, they're paying for it. So we need to make it easier for people to use it and take advantage of it.
Great. Well, thanks everybody for your time today. Brad, thank you for your insights and building intelligence. And we'll be signing off today and look forward to seeing everybody in June.
Yeah, thanks everybody for attending. We really appreciate it.
Have a great day. Enjoy the nice weather out in Michigan.
See you guys.
Later.